I think we're recording. I guess recording is in progress. So welcome everybody to Monday nights. Normally we're here together on a Thursday night. I'm sure that's throwing a curve at you, and I hope people are able to make it. So we're going to start tonight with a song that concluded bringing it all back home. You know, the sequencing of songs, the placement of songs by Dylan is very deliberate, and the last song and the first song are always the most important ones in his mind. And the last one, typically in the last few albums, has always been a farewell song, a farewell message. So that was It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. We've got a remake by Margot Cotton. You'll hear a lot of her. I like her a lot. She's doing these remakes in 2022, which again shows you the relevance of Dylan. They're still covering his music from 1960s. So here's Margot Cotton performing, and one-woman band too, by the way. It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. Oops, I got to put it on the slideshow first. Here we go. Sorry about that. Here, we'll try that again.
You must leave now, take what you need, you think will last. But whatever you wish to keep, you better grab it fast. He understands you're orphan with his gun, crying like a fire in the sun. Look how the saints are coming through, and it's all over now, baby blue. The highway is for gamblers, better use your sense. Take what you have gathered from coincidence. The emptied ended painted from your streets is drawing crazy patterns on your sheets. The sky too is folding under you. Seasick sailors that are rowing home. Your empty-handed armies that are going home. Your lover who just walked out the door has taken all his blankets from the floor. Too is moving under you, and it's all over now, baby blue.
Yeah, there you go. That was Margot Cotton at the if anybody knows where that is. I know it must be somewhere in France. She's from France. Um, and it looks like some sort kind of a mansion, a pretty cool place to do a recording. Last session, we did a tribute to Gordon Lightfoot, who passed away, and we spent the whole prelude doing covers and also found connections between Leonard Cohen, I'm sorry, not Leonard Cohen, Gordon Lightfoot and Dylan. Today, we're doing one tribute song for Tina Turner, who recently passed away. And she was born Anna Mae Bullock, died May 24th, 23, so she was in her early 80s. This is a song we covered in an earlier Jewish American influence session on Phil Spector. This was a great recording, and it didn't do so well. And Phil Spector went into a deep dive, deep depression, because he thought the song was great and it didn't get well received. But it has become since a classic. It's recognized by Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's recognized by Rolling Stone, excuse me, magazine as one of the great songs of all time. So let's give a tribute to Tina Turner and a great song, River Deep, Mountain High.
When I was a little girl, I had a rag doll, only down a river. Now I love you just the way I love that rag doll. Only now my love has grown. It gets stronger in every way, and it gets deeper. Let me say, and it gets higher, day by day. Oh, I love you, my oh my. River deep, mountains high. If I lost you, would I cry? Oh, how I love you, baby, 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 baby. When you were a young boy, did you have a puppet that always followed you around? Well, I'm gonna be as faithful as that puppet. No, I'll never let you down. So take a look like a river flows. And it gets sweeter, baby, and heaven down.
Hey, that was a tribute to Tina Turner. And I'm going to come back to It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. It's an important song, as I mentioned before, in closing the album, Bringing It All Back Home. And true for many of Dylan's songs, there's so many ways to cut it, so many ways to cover it, interpret it. And so here's another version. Brian Ferry's fairly well known. He's was part of a group called Roxy Music, and he did a whole album of Dylan covers in the 2000s. I can't, probably around 2015. Anyway, here's Brian Ferry.
Dankeschön, thank you very much. Back me here in München, thank you. You must leave now, take what you need, you think will last. But whatever you wish to keep, you better grab it fast. You understand you're often with his gun, crying like a fire in the sun. Look out, all the saints are coming through, and it's all over now, baby blue. The highway is for gamblers, better use your sense. Take what you have gathered from coincidence. The empty hand of paper from your strings is drawing crazy patterns on your sheets. The sky too is falling over you, and it's all over now, baby blue. Six sailors, they are rowing home. All your reindeer armies, they're all going home. The lover who just walked out your door has taken all his blankets from the floor. The coffin too is moving under you, and it's all over now, baby blue. And it's all over now, baby blue. And it's all over now, baby blue. Woo! Thank you.
Okay, and now for the last song tonight in the prelude, which will conclude our prelude and will also be a good segue into starting this next session. We're going to play a cover version of Like a Rolling Stone. It includes Seal and Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck, by the way, also died recently. So in a way, this is a tribute to him likewise. So here is Jeff Beck, Seal, performing Like a Rolling Stone, which will take us into Like a Rolling Stone this session, hopefully.
upon a time you dressed so fine. You even threw the bums a dime in your prime. Didn't you? Hey, now people call and say, beware, dawn, you're bound to fall. But you thought they were all kidding you. You used to laugh about everybody that was hanging out. Now you don't talk so loud. And look at you now, you don't seem so proud about having to be scrounging for your next meal. How does it feel? How does it feel to be without a home? Like a complete unknown, like a rolling stone. Yes, now you've gone to the finest schools, all right, Miss Lonely, but you know that you only ever used to get juice in it. Well, now nobody ever taught you how to live on the street, and now you find that you're gonna have to get used to it. Oh, but you said that you never compromise with a mystery chap, but now you realize, oh, he's not selling any alibis. As you stare into the vacuum of his eyes, and you say to him, mister, can you make a deal? How does it feel? How does it feel to be on your own with no direction home, like a complete unknown, like a rolling stone? Yeah, now you never turn around to see the frowns on the junglers and the clowns when they all come down and did their tricks for you. And they never understood that it ain't no good. You shouldn't let other people get your kicks for you. Well, you used to ride on a chrome horse with your diplomat, who carried on his shoulder a Siamese cat. Hey, ain't it so hard when you discover that he wasn't really where it's at. After he took from you everything that he could steal. How does it feel? How does it feel to be on your own with no direction home, like a complete unknown, like a rolling stone? Well, listen now, princess on the steeple and all that pretty people, they're drinking, thinking that they got it made. exchanging all kinds of precious gifts and things. You better take that diamond ring and you better pawn it, babe. Oh, you used to be so amused at Napoleon rags and language that he used. Oh, go to him now, he calls you, and you can't refuse. When you ain't got nothing to lose. Oh, 'cause you're invisible now, and you got no secrets to conceal. Well, now, how does it feel? How does it feel to be on your own with no direction home, like a complete unknown? Yeah. Look at you, like a rolling stone, like a rolling stone. Oh, like a rolling stone. Like a rolling stone. Like a rolling stone. Now how does it feel? Like a rolling stone.
Okay, if you're just joining us, we just concluded our prelude. I did end the prelude with It's All Over Now, Baby Blue, and followed by Like a Rolling Stone cover. And I put the two together purposely. One, the songs have a lot of parallels, as we discussed in the last session. And also because It's All Over Baby Blue is the last song in the album of Bringing It All Back Home. And of course, the first song in the next album, Highway 61 Revisited, is Like a Rolling Stone. So I'll give you a little flavor of where we're going, and just a little housekeeping, just to let you know that we have one more session left next Thursday. We're back on the Thursday time slot before we take a bit of a break. We're going to take the summer off and the high holidays and resume in the fall. And I am going to be working on developing new sessions over the summer. I am working on Leonard Cohen right now. So we should have a few of those sessions, and I'm going to mix in with some more Dylan, and we'll go from there. So I'm not quite through yet with the album Bringing It All Back Home. We did conclude the album. We covered every song except a very important one, but I do have a couple of album outtakes that are worth going through. The first one isn't going to take as much time. They never made it on the studio recordings, but they did surface on the bootleg series volumes 1 and 3, rare and unreleased songs 61 to 91. There's 2 album outtakes, and like other Dylan throwaways, other artists have picked up these songs and made substantial meals from them. So the first one, again, it's a very lighthearted song. You Gotta Go Now, Go Now. On the surface, If You Gotta Go Now is a fun and lighthearted song. The song is addressed to a woman, and the songwriter lightheartedly and respectfully asks her to make up her mind to either stay the night or just leave. And in songmeanings.com, a blog that I read, one reader commented that Bob Dylan wrote this song when he was hanging out on campus before he arrived at the New York Village scene back in the early 60s. So this particular story he's describing would go back to 1959 or 60. There's no way to confirm this story, but it adds to the lightheartedness of the song. And the reader continues, this song was inspired by the curfew rules in place there at the time. Tewksbury, a dorm built in 1958, was a woman's only dorm. And if the woman did not manage to get in by midnight, well, the doors would be locked for security reasons, I presume, and the woman would have to find somewhere else to spend the nights. So in that light, let's take a look at the verses from the song. First verse, listen to me, baby, there's something you must see. I want to be with you, gal, if you want to be with me. It ain't that I'm questioning you. I'll take part in any quiz. It's just that I ain't got no watch, and you keep asking me what time it is. I am just a poor boy, baby, looking to connect, but I certainly don't want you thinking that I ain't got any respect. You know, I'd have nightmares and a guilty conscience too if I kept you from anything that you really wanted to do. It ain't that I'm wanting anything you never gave before, just that I'd be sleeping soon. It'll be dark for you to find the door. After each verse and concluding the song is the chorus, but if you gotta go, it's all right. But if you gotta go, go now, or else you gotta stay all night. Dylan did perform the song on stage, but usually between heavies like Gates of Eden and It's All Right, Ma, I'm Only Bleeding, to provide some relief for him and the audience. Is Dylan also saying to himself that he's got to make up his mind to stay or leave the folk protest song world? Fairport Convention, one of my favorite British folk rock groups, did a recording of this song, interestingly in French. They scored a hit with the song, and we did cover it in an earlier prelude. Manfred Mann also got a single and a hit by recording this song, and here's his version, or their version.
Listen to me, baby. I'm trying to make you see that I want to be with you, girl, if you want to be with me. But if you got to go, it's alright. But if you got to go, go now, or else you got to stay all night. Just a poor boy, baby, trying to connect. But I don't want you thinking, oh, that I ain't got any respect. But if you got to go, it's alright. But if you got to go, go now, or else you got to stay all night. Now I'm not trying to question you to take part in any quiz. It's just that I don't have a watch and you keep asking me what time it is. But if you got to go, well, it's alright. But if you got to go, go now, or else you got to stay all night. Now I don't want to make you give anything you never gave before. It's just that I'll be sleeping soon. It'll be too dark for you to find the door. But if you got to go, well, it's alright. But if you got to go, go now, or else you got to stay all night.
Hey, that was the first take, Manfred Mann, Do Diddy. did a cover. He did a few Dylan covers. We'll do Quinn the Eskimo as well. He did that. Here's the next outtake. And the other outtake from Bringing It All Back Home was Farewell Angelina. And many people believe this is another song that Dylan just let get away. It's a great song. The reason it didn't make the album may be because Dylan gifted it to Joan Baez. Farewell Angelina, as the song title suggests, is another farewell song. And Dylan may have gifted this song and chose not to finish it to his satisfaction because he already selected a farewell song, you may recall from the last session, It's All Over Now, Baby Blue, to conclude his album. Dylan only did one take on Farewell Angelina, and it did get released on a bootleg series, Volume 1-3. Like It's All Over Now, Baby Blue, Farewell Angelina is likely about the end of a relationship, but left with many questions. What relationship are you singing about? It's about a love relationship. Is it about a love relationship interrupted by war? Or could it be Dylan once again saying it to the folk protest world that it's time to move on? The melody of Farewell Angelina is said to be based on the 1850s Scottish song by George Scroggie titled Farewell to Tarwithy, which itself is based on an older traditional tune. Does Farewell to Tarwithy provide us with a clue as to the intended meaning for Farewell Angelina? Farewell to Tarwithy is about a whaler who must leave his country and his true love in a grueling trip to the barren Greenland in search for whales. Certainly, Farewell to Tarwithy is also a song about a relationship which is about to be interrupted. When we play the song, listen for the whale sounds. That's the only musical accompaniment to Judy Collins singing Farewell to Tarwithy.
Thank you. Farewell to Tarwathy, adieu Mormon Hill, and the dear land of Crimond, I bid thee farewell. We're bound off for Greenland and ready to sail in hopes to find riches in hunting the whale. Farewell to my comrades, for a while we must part, and likewise the dear lass who first won my heart. The cold coast of Greenland my love will not chill, and the longer my absence, more loving she'll feel. Our ship is well rigged and she's ready to sail. The crew, they are anxious to follow the whale, where the icebergs do float and the stormy winds blow, where the land and the ocean is covered with snow. Oh, the cold coast of Greenland is barren and bare, no seed time nor harvest is ever known there, and the birds here sing sweetly in mountain and dale, but there's no bird in Greenland to sing to the whale. There is no habitation for a man to live there, and the king of that country is the fierce Greenland bear. And there'll be no temptation to tarry long there. With our ship bumper full, we will homeward repair. to Tarwassie. Adieu, Mormon Hill and the dear land of Crimmin. I bid thee farewell. We're bound off for Greenland and ready to sail in hopes to find riches in hunting a whale. Thank you. And thank you to the whales.
Farewell Angelina is 6 verses with 9 lines each verse. One verse is deleted in the official Dylan site version, so we're only going to cover 5 of the verses. Philip Margotten and Jean-Michel Guisdin, authors of Bob Dylan, All the Songs, right behind me actually, writes Farewell Angelina marks a step forward in Dylan's writing style. I agree with him that quite conceivably, quote, Dylan sings of the coming birth of a new world from the ashes of the old one. That is, the song melody has the feel of the old world, but the lyrics for the song setting established is more modern. How do you interpret the song may determine the musical interpretation that the artist will give it. For instance, if the song is about a love relationship interrupted by a cruel war, the song melody must contrast the delicacy of a loving relationship that could come to an end with the horrors of war. In the first verse, the young male lover could be saying farewell to his true love with the call to war. Here's the first verse. Farewell, Angelina. The bells of the crown are being stolen by bandits. I must follow the sound. The triangle tingles and the trumpets play slow. Farewell, Angelina. The sky is on fire and I must go. The bells of the crown are being stolen by bandits may be a metaphor that one country has done an injustice to the young male's country, and he must go off to war to fight for the honor of the crown. The young male lover is called and must follow the sound that beckons him to war. The sky is on fire, sounds like the war he is heading to is already in full progress. You might question the words, the triangle tingles and the trumpets play slow, that is beckoning the young man to war. After all, wouldn't you expect a marching band to summon him to war? Triangle tingles and trumpets that play slow may be more in line with folk music. Is Dylan making another statement about leaving the folk protest genre, but this time with little to no loud protest? If so, he is not leaving the music genre kicking and screaming as he does in Restless Farewell from the Times They Are Changing album. Dylan, with this interpretation, is more calmly resigned to change and is moving on. He therefore sings in the second verse with this interpretation, there's no need for anger, there's no need for blame, there's nothing to prove, everything's still the same. On this basis, the song can be played gently throughout without trying to insert the harsh reality of war, which would disrupt the loving romance. The song is filled with surrealism and imagery from the beginning to end, making it really impossible to determine which of any interpretations is right or was intended by Dylan. In the balance of the second verse, one can easily also interpret the song lyrics in at least 2 different ways. Beginning the second verse, just a table standing empty by the edge of the sea. Farewell, Angelina. The sky is trembling and I must leave. On the one hand, the young lover could be leaving a table standing empty, which may represent an emptiness in feeling on leaving behind a home and his lover. On the other hand, the young lover could be leaving Angelina behind because she is, for instance, like Joan Baez, stuck in her folk genre and he is going somewhere new and exciting, or the sky is on fire. He could be approaching a table standing empty, which may, in this interpretation, represent a brand new genre waiting to be developed. The remaining verses are even more perplexing and ambiguous. In the third verse, jacks and the queens, 52 gypsies, the deuce, the ace, and folding are references to a deck of cards and card games. Is Dylan saying that life is a game of chance? Your life depends on chance and the hand you were dealt? The sky is folding may mean that you are folding your cards now and want to start a new hand or change your music directions. Or maybe your life is like a poker game, and whether you win or lose or live or die in an oncoming war is dependent on chance and the madness of false leaders. In the third verse, who is the cross-eyed pirate sitting perched in the sun? Relating to the interpretation of change in music, the cross-eyed pirates could be the leaders of the folk protest establishment, and they can't see straight. Or they could be the military leaders who also can't see straight and are misleading their soldiers. Whoever they are, shooting tin cans with a sawed-off shotgun. Maybe this means the leaders, whether from the folk protest establishment or military, are shooting at a target which requires precision, but with a gun that scatters buckshot, resulting in overkill or overreach. This could mean literal overkill in a war, or figuratively speaking, overkill in reaction to nonconformists playing new genres of music like Dylan. Maybe it is overkill of Phil Spector's wall of sound recording technique, using multiple instruments of each kind in the recording studio. At the time, Phil Spector's musical sound was very popular. In the meantime, the neighbors, they clap and they cheer with each blast, may refer to the fan base who love the folk music and don't want artists like Dylan to bring on any new direction or sound in music. Or it could be the generals exhorting their soldiers to fight on. In the fourth verse, I'm speculating what King Kong, Little Elves, or why they are dancing on the rooftops to Valentino-type tangos means. Maybe this is a reference to the Brill Building sound, which was popular in the early 60s and was now coming to an end. Dancing could be a reference to, for instance, the song Save the Last Dance for Me, which has a Latin or tango sound, and On the Rooftops may be a reference to Carole King and Jerry Goffin's Up on the Roof. I don't know how Bob could not like either song. Both were popular songs from the Brill Building era of music, and we covered both of them when we covered the Brill Building and Jewish American influence. Here's Save the Last Dance for Me, still brings a tear to my eyes, even in the way this song is built with a tango sound and very upbeat, but when you know the background, that always brings a tear. Save the Last Dance for Me.
You can dance, every dance with the guy who gives you the eye, let him hold you tight. You can smile, every smile for the man who held your hand beneath the pale moonlight. But don't forget who's taking you home and in whose arms you're gonna be. So darling, say the last dance for me. Oh, I know that the music's fine, like sparkling wine. Go and have your fun, laugh and sing. But while we're apart, don't give your heart to anyone. But don't forget who's taking you home and in whose arms you're gonna be. So darling, say the last dance for me. Baby, don't you know I love you so? Can't you feel it when we touch? I will never, never let you go. I love you oh so much. You can dance, go and carry on till the night is gone and it's time to go. If he asks, if you're all alone, can he take you home? You must tell him no. 'Cause don't forget who's taking you home and in whose arms you're gonna be. So darling, save the last dance for me. Cause don't forget who's taking you home and in whose arms you're gonna be. So darling, save the last dance for me. Save the last dance for me. Save the last dance for me.
That was a lyrics written by Doc Pomus, and he wrote that on his, supposedly he wrote that on napkins on his wedding nights. And Doc Pomus is disabled, and he couldn't dance with his bride that night. He watched his father and his brother dance with his wife and friends, and he told her, "Don't feel bad about it. I'm going to take you home tonight. You'll save the last dance for me." So continuing the next verse, let me see, did I miss something? No, okay. While the makeup man's hands shut the eyes of the dead, not to embarrass anyone, farewell, Angelina, the sky is embarrassed and I must be gone. I think the makeup man could be the person in the funeral home who is propping up and dressing the dead body to make them look alive or less embarrassing. It is time to move on from the dead. However, is it the dead soldiers or is it the dead music we're moving on from? Either way, it is no embarrassment or shame in dying. You can also go in both directions with this last verse. Here it comes. The machine guns are roaring. The puppets heave rocks. The fiends nail time bombs to the hands of the clocks. Call me any name you like. I will never deny it. Farewell, Angelina. The sky is erupting. I must go where it's quiet. The machine guns, puppets, or soldiers who do what they are told, bombs, and the sky is erupting with missiles launched throughout the sky are certainly suggestive of war. Quiet may be a reference to the battlefield the young man is going to, where many are dead and left quiet. Quiet may even be a reference to Erich Maria Remarque's epic novel, All Quiet on the Western Front. Dylan said in his Nobel Prize acceptance speech, this was the only book you needed to read on the horrors of war. This was one of the 3 books he referenced in his Nobel Prize acceptance speech. The fiends nailed time bombs to the hands of the clocks may be a reference to the leaders calling for deadly warfare, which prevents the progress of civilization. In other words, the hands of the clocks are blown away, resulting in time standing still and progress not coming. Or it could mean that the leaders are preventing music from moving forward in a new direction. In both cases, the leaders are destroying the hands of the clock, preventing progress by refusing to yield to change and forcing time to stand still. With call me any name you like, I will never deny it, is Dylan being self-referential. As Dylan is portrayed in the movie I'm Not There, he's prepared to change himself, his identities, his name, in order to change and to progress in his art. For another throwaway song, Farewell, Angelina has been covered by many artists. Joan Baez, including the song on her 1965 album, which she also titled Farewell, Angelina. In other words, the title of the song and the album is Farewell, Angelina, and gives you an idea how she felt about the song. She still performs the song regularly. While how you interpret the song affects how you would perform it, the song has been translated into French, German, Italian, Swedish, and get this, Bengalese. It has been recorded by the fabled Jeff Buckley, by the Celtic jam band Wake the Dead, the country folk singer Roseanne Cash. Here's a version that I kind of like by Nana Mouskouri, Adieu, and she sings it in French, Adieu Angelina.
Vous chantez ce soir Adieu Angelina, mais ce n'est qu'un au revoir.
Adieu Angelina, les cloches de la couronne ont été volées à l'aube, je les entends qui sonnent. Je dois les rattraper. Adieu Angelina, le ciel est en feu et je m'en vais. Ce n'est pas la peine d'en faire une affaire. Ce n'est pas la peine d'ameuter toute la terre. Je dois m'en aller. Les rois et les reines quittent la basse-cour. 200 bohémiennes sont entrées à la cour. Dans la salle du tour, rien ne va plus pour moi. Angelina, le ciel s'écroule, je te verrai plus tard. Regarde ces pirates dans la voie lactée qui tirent sur des boîtes avec un canon-cier. Les voisins applaudissent, poussent des cris de joie. Le ciel se décolore, je te verrai plus tard. King Kong et les elfes vont danser sur les toits. Des longs tangos typiques tandis que de leurs doigts des maquilleurs s'escriment à fermer les yeux de la mort. Le ciel est trop sombre, je dois m'échapper. Les mitrailleuses crépitent, les poupées mobilisent. Des bombes plastiques éclatent dans les églises. Appelle-moi comme tu veux, je ne discute pas. Le ciel se déchaîne, je vais chercher la paix.
That doesn't sound bad in French. Bringing It All Back Home was Dylan's first $1 million selling album. His shift to electric horrified the folk purists, and he was denounced as a complete sellout. Al Silber, edited the folk magazine Sing Out, mercilessly attacked him. The writer called Dylan a freak and a parody. The previously released studio album, Another Side of Bob Dylan, while lacking in folk tradition and structure, with songs of personal pain, at least was performed with an acoustic guitar and sounded folksy. The album was rock. This album was rock. Bob was going commercial. Dylan was after a larger and a bigger teenage audience. Was this a sellout? What the critics failed to realize was that Dylan was creating a new language, using more complex imagery, and was more critical of the social order than he was even before. He was able to tap into the developing counterculture where it was at. To the critics, he was saying, because something is happening here, but you don't know what it is, do you, Mr. Jones? Dylan also incredibly invoked artists like T.S. Eliot, William Blake, Bertolt Brecht, and Jack Kerouac into his lyrics, giving rock music a new intellectual capacity. Ian Tyson, who was in the Greenwich Village folk scene, remarked, "The Beatles shut us down. It was over. We didn't know how to play with electric instruments. All of us folkies were just standing there with egg in our faces. Then only one who had the guts to challenge the rock and roll guys on their own terms was Dylan. The Greenwich folk scene was faded." Truth is, the folk scene didn't end, it was transformed. Folk rock emerged in the mid-60s with the Byrds, the Loving Spoonful, which included Jewish co-founder and guitarist Zale Yanofsky, the Mamas and the Papas with Jewish member Mama Cass. By the way, both Zale and Mama passed away. Just a reminder that Dylan and the World on Dylan, evolved out of Jewish American influence on American popular music, 1880 to 2000. So I make these references to Jewish performers. Anyways, we talked about in previous sessions the end of the romance with Susie Rotolo, a very deep, very intense relationship. We're now going to talk about the ending romance with Joan Baez. Dylan's move away from protest left Joan Baez in the lurch, both professionally and intimately. Dylan and Baez were romantically involved for at least the past year, performing on stage together while he was still in the folk scene. But when Dylan moved on from the folk scene, his attitude towards Baez was what changed dramatically, didn't just begin to change. Dylan believed Baez was naive in her commitment to bring about social change through song. During their relationship in 1964, they joked about getting married, but there was no formal proposal. According to Joan Baez, her brush off may have caused an underlying hostility towards her. Dylan invited Baez to join him on his English tour in May 1965. Dylan, according to Baez, was in a very bad way during the tour. She described it as a death trip for Dylan. Dylan never invited Baez on stage during the tour, which was very hurtful, considering she invited him up on stage during her own concerts when he was not even nationally well known. D.A. Pennebaker, the filmmaker, captures Dylan, which could be interpreted as amazing focus and discipline on his part composing a song. Or was this scene demonstrating a complete lack of interest in Joan Baez? Or perhaps it was both. During the English tour in 1965 in the classic documentary film. For me, it breaks my heart. Dylan is typing away while Baez is singing her heart out.
Bad news came to where I sleep. Turn, turn, turn again. Saying one of your friends is in trouble. Turn, turn to the rain and the wind. Tell me the trouble, tell me once to my ear. Turn, turn, turn again. It's Julie at prison for 99 years. Turn, turn to the rain and the wind. Tell me once how this came to be. Turn, turn, turn again. It was manslaughter in the highest degree. Turn, turn to the rain and the wind.
Baez recounts this film clip was one of Dylan's most tender and human moments during the trip. How could Dylan not stop and listen? During a break in the English tour, Dylan flew to Portugal for a brief vacation, but he did not invite Joan Baez to join him. Instead, he arranged to fly over Sarah Lowndes, who was in America, to join him. That was when Baez found out about another woman in Dylan's orbit. Baez, when she found out, immediately quit the 65 tour. They did not sing again together until mid-70s, when Dylan invited her to join the Rolling Thunder Revue tour. In bitterness, Baez wrote a song in 1972 to Bobby, attacking him for abandoning the protest movement. Baez sounds more resigned, less bitter, however, in 1975 with what is considered one of her best songs ever, Diamonds and Rust, again reflecting about her past relationship with Dylan. Let's listen to this, I think, beautiful song.
Well, I'll be damned, here comes your ghost again. But that's not unusual, it's just that the moon is full and you happen to call. And here I sit and on the telephone, hearing a voice I'd known a couple of light years ago, heading straight for a fall. As I remember, your eyes were bluer than robin's eggs. My poetry was lousy, you said. Where are you calling from? A booth in the Midwest. 10 years ago, I bought you some cufflinks. You brought me something. We both know what memories can bring. They bring diamonds and rust. Well, you burst on the scene, already a legend, the unwashed phenomenon, the original vagabond. You strayed into my arms, and there you stayed, temporarily lost at sea. The Madonna was yours for free. Yes, the girl on the half shell could keep you unharmed. Now I see you standing with brown leaves falling all around and snow in your hair. Now you're smiling out the window of that crummy hotel over Washington Square. Our breath comes out, white clouds mingles and hangs in the air. Speaking strictly for me, we both could have died then and there. Now you're telling me you're not nostalgic, then give me another word for it. You were so keeping things vague. 'Cause I need some of that vagueness now, it's all come back too clearly. Yes, I loved you dearly, and if you're offering me diamonds and rust, I've already paid.
Beautiful song, haunting, beautiful voice. She plays beautiful guitar too, by the way. Baez also appears in Dylan's film Ronaldo and Clara, along with Sarah Lowndes, Dylan's wife, which was filmed during the 1975 Rolling Thunder Review tour. Must have been a bit awkward. In addition to her involvement in the Rolling Thunder Review tour, which she absolutely loved, she was invited by Dylan to join him again in his 1984 European tour. According to Baez, during the 84 tour, both were unattached at the time, and Dylan made an inappropriate pass at her, running his hand under, in her quotations, under my skirt, around my knee, and up my thigh. She stopped Dylan in his tracks and quit the tour for the second time. She seems, however, to have since been reconciled, and her anger and hurt gone. And here's an interview with Martin Scorsese in 2005.
I was young, and I had expectations and wanted to be where the action was. And I should not have been there at that time. Everybody was having a wonderful time, and they were all smashing things up in the hotel room, and I was this weird square over in my room who didn't do all that stuff. I was very critical of everybody who did and wanted my time with Bob because I thought he was a special friend. And he'd moved on. And it was awful. I mean, it just hurt like hell. I assumed that since I'd invited him on the stage in the States, he would invite me on the stage there. He had no intention of doing that. He was ready to have that whole stage all to himself. That's what I'd say. He didn't want anybody competing with it. That's as close as I can get.
It was probably a stupid thing to do, but not letting her play. But you can't be wise and in love at the same time. So I hope she'd see the light sooner or later on that.
Bob is one of the most complex human beings I've ever met, and I think at first I really tried to figure this guy out. No, I gave it up, and so I don't know. I don't know what he thought about. All I know is what he gave us.
Baez lifted a song, Love is Just a Four-Letter Word from Dylan, and he didn't even know the song was missing. Here's another interview with, a short interview with Joan Baez.
Four-letter word. I took that and disappeared with it and sang it, and I think the next Bob knew about it. He heard it on the radio. I was with him and he heard it on the radio and he was listening. He said, that's a great song. That's a great song. He didn't remember he'd written. I said, yeah, you wrote it, you dope.
Strange it is to be beside you, many years of tables turned. Probably not believe me if I told you all I've learned. And it is very, very weird indeed to hear words like forever, fleets of ships run through my mind. I cannot cheat. It's like looking into teacher's face complete. I can say nothing to you but repeat what I heard. That love is just a four-letter, love is just a four-letter, love is just a four-letter word.
As Joan Baez said, Dylan didn't even notice it was missing from his repertoire. That's the only song I can't find in the book, all the songs of Bob Dylan. That one is not in there. For some reason, it just went missing as far as Bob Dylan was concerned. Anyways, Joan Baez included this song in her 1968 double album, Any Day Now, which is exclusively Dylan cover songs. She did a lot of Dylan cover songs. Once again, an artist uses Dylan songs as his or her meal ticket. Love is just a 4-letter word, was never recorded or performed by Bob Dylan. After finally apologizing in a PBS documentary titled Joan Baez, How Sweet the Sound, Dylan said, "I'm very sorry for what I've done. We had a great relationship, but it ended." According to Dylan, he was motivated by the desire to keep her from being swept up in the chaos that surrounded his own career. On the other hand, Dylan, in ending his relationship with Joan Baez, swiftly moved on to another relationship. Sarah was a friend of Sally Grossman and frequent visitor to the Grossman home in Woodstock. Albert Grossman, recall, was Dylan's manager, and Sally was Albert's wife. In 1964, Dylan was also a frequent guest at the Grossman's home when he met Sarah. Sarah was a former model and Playboy bunny, so obviously she was very attractive. She was born Shirley Nosnitsky to Jewish parents. She changed her first name to Sarah at the request of her previous husband, Hans Lowndes, a magazine photographer. Apparently, Hans' previous wife's name was Shirley, and he didn't want to be reminded of her. They had a daughter together, that is Hans and Sarah, named Maria, during their brief marriage together. Dylan was the reason Sarah left Hans. Sarah lived as a single mother at the legendary hotel, the Chelsea Hotel, with her daughter Maria. Dylan moved to the Chelsea Hotel towards the end of 1964 in order to be close with her, unbeknownst to Joan Baez, of course. Sarah worked for D.A. Pennebaker. He's the guy who did the Don't Look Back. He's the producer, and we saw some of those film clips with her and Dylan in that 65 tour in England, which we just saw. Dylan and Sarah had a secret wedding on November 26, 1965, the second anniversary date for the JFK assassination. It was not until February 1966 when Nora Ephron, writing for the New York Post, gave the news that Dylan had married Sarah Lowndes in a private ceremony that the world found out he was married. Dylan adopted Maria and had 4 children since with Sarah, who were each given a biblical name: Jesse, Anna after Hannah, Dylan's paternal grandmother, Samuel, and Jacob. Jacob, you may know as Jacob Dylan, the Wallflowers, is having a very successful career. Sarah and Bob lived in rural Woodstock until 1973. That's where Albert Grossman was residing as well. Interestingly, Woodstock is very close to Bethel. Bethel also happens to be the place in the Bible where Abraham and Sarah lived. Bob's father's name is Abraham. In 1973, Sarah and Bob moved to Malibu, California. Tensions began during the 2 years that Dylan was building a monster home over the Pacific Ocean. Dylan stayed in Manhattan while his Malibu home was being built. Dylan began to take art classes with the artist Norman Rabin, one of 6 children of Solomon Naumovich Rabinovich, otherwise known as Shalom Aleichem, endeared Jewish author and modern playwright in New York. Shalom Aleichem wrote Tevye the Dairyman, which the Broadway musical Fiddler on the Roof was based on. Dylan would later say in an interview that the art lessons that he received from Norman, believe it or not, caused problems in their marriage. He says, "I went home after the first day. My wife never did understand me ever since that day. That's when our marriage started breaking up. She never knew that what I was talking about, what I was thinking about, and I couldn't possibly explain it. They had a bitter divorce in June 1977, but afterwards would become friendly with each other. Discussing his parents' marriage, Jakob Dylan said in 2005, "My father said it himself in an interview many years ago. Husband and wife failed, but mother and father didn't. My ethics are high because my parents did a great job." Sarah was like the subject of many songs that Dylan wrote, as we shall see. The connection to the biblical story. The Pennebackers film title, that the movie documentary we were talking about, the 65 English tour, Don't Look Back, the title was given by Dylan himself. It's an apt title as it describes Dylan's outlook in life. As he said, life is about creating oneself and creating things. Interestingly, it is reported that Dylan was inspired by the biblical passage when Lot was commanded to leave Sodom and Gomorrah with his family. Lot and his family were also commanded to not look back. In the biblical narrative, when Lot's wife looked back, she turned into a pillar of salt. Dylan takes this message seriously, if not religiously. So that's all I want to do tonight. It's 9 o'clock. Next session, last session before the summer, we're going to get into Like a Rolling Stone. So those who are still with us, thank you. Thank you for sticking around. It's getting late in the spring season. We're almost at summer. And we're going to, as I mentioned at the beginning of this session, we're going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to be working on Leonard Cohen over the summer, developing some sessions and creating a series for Leonard Cohen as well. I'm not giving up on Dylan yet because the best is yet to come. Highway 61, Blonde on Blonde, and some really interesting stuff that came after his car accident, motorcycle accident.
Really good.
Oh, who's that speaking?
Steve Danny.
Hey, Steve, nice to hear you. How you doing?
Great, great. Just a wonderful show that you put on. Just beautiful.
Thank you.
Great
I
job,
hope you're
Alan, as usual.
Hey, Howard, are you there with your uncle?
I am.
Well, say hello to your uncle. I don't know your uncle's name.
The same name as you, except with an E.
Well, I got it spelt right. Anyways, hey, everybody, there's Hi to Hi. I see David.
Hi, how are you?
Sanchia looking after us again.
Great
Sorry?
session.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. My daughter Melanie's on board. Gary Schiff's on board.
I have a question.
Sure. Not that I can answer it, but I'll try.
Yeah. Do you think that you'll talk at all about Dylan's conversion?
Oh, if you let me get that far, I definitely have already developed sessions on it. And his departure from Christianity as well. He actually became an Orthodox Jew after he became a Christian.
Did he?
I didn't know that. He did a real roller coaster ride.
Yeah. So you've already spoken about that. I must have missed.
No, I will be speaking about it if we get that far. I still
Ah,
got to get
okay.
through Highway 61 Revisited, Blonde on Blonde, John Wesley Harding. You know, after his motorcycle crash, he changed again. Assumed another persona and changed music, and everybody followed him. So that's a whole different story coming up. And then leading to that, he became much more spiritual, and eventually got into Christianity.
Well, I really enjoy these sessions. They're very entertaining and informative.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate the comments. There's Marvin Bernstein with Sandy, I hope. And
We're here together.
of course, you're a team.
Yeah, we are.
Good for you. Well, okay. Thank you, fans.
Nice stuff. Nice
Thanks,
stuff.
Alan.
Thanks, Alan.
We're going to be back next Thursday, and then a long break. And then I'm going to mix in some Leonard Cohen. You know, Leonard Cohen and Dylan have a lot of parallels. So I love Leonard Cohen. So I'd be happy to bring that to you as well.
Thanks, Alan.
There's Alan, my buddy at the door,
How are you, Alan?
my gatekeeper friend.
Well
I'm
done.
great.
as
How are
always.
you? What's
We're
that?
good. Thank you. Yeah,
Good.
It was great.
it was great, as always.
Thank you, Alan and Cindy.
Always enjoy.
Mishpucha from the shul.
Nice to see you, Alan. Have a good night.
Have a great night. I hope to see you guys next Thursday.
Thanks,
Last
Thank
session.
you.
And Gloria Shan, and very nice. Thank you, everybody. And
Bye, see you
Sanchez,
next
well,
week.
again, thank you very much. Gloria, how are you? You're on mute, but I can see I can read